And I'm so glad that everyone is here today. When you come to one of these seminars, it shows that you are above and beyond because you're getting the tips and the tricks to be a better job seeker. And the best job seeker are the ones who make the best money. So let's get on to it because we don't have a lot of time. When you think about job search, everybody is always talking about resumes. Well, resumes really aren't that basic. You have to worry about the form and the style, and you have to make sure that it's easy to read. You need to worry about the contact information, and we're going to talk about emails and voicemails. You're wanting to list your high school experience, and if you've got any other educational experience, you list that as well. Your volunteer experience, your work experience, that needs to be on your first resume. We're going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn, and we're going to talk a little bit about preparing for interviews. So let's carry on. I don't know if you can see this, and I don't want to blow it up, but this is what a basic resume looks like. The first part, you see Albert's name, you see his address, you see the summary, the highlights, and everything else. The only thing you have to do different than Albert on his resume is you don't have to include your home address anymore. Nowadays, we just want to see your name, we want to see your email address, and we want to see your phone number. You do not need to include a home address anymore. That's really important. This is another way for a resume to look, completely different than the prior one, but this is a more healthcare related resume where you've got her name, she's got listed her city, and she's detailing out all the work she did as a certified nursing assistant. When you're in job search, it's important for you to understand your personal branding. Everybody at high school, everybody at school, they know you as one particular thing. In the professional world, you get to reinvent yourself. And that starts with an email address that reflects what you want to do. So if this is your first time job and you're looking to do something in customer service, maybe your email address would be JaneSmith_customer service or John Doe_CS, C service, customer service. So you use your email address as a way to signal to somebody what you want to do. It shows that you're that much more detailed and that you're really thinking about the whole job search process. And that's your email. But on your voicemail, it's the same thing. I know a lot of people, just text nowadays, and there aren't a lot of phone calls going on. But employers might call you and they might want to offer you a job. So you want to make sure your voicemail is appropriate and professional. And that's just during your job search, because once you got the job, you can revert to the fun voicemail that you had before. When you're in job search and you're driving down the road or you're doing something and your phone rings and you look at it and you're not sure what the phone number is, don't answer it. Let it go to voicemail. And then when you're in a good place, listen to the voicemail. If it's from an employer, you can call them back. If you're just driving down the road and you pick up the phone and it's an employer, you might not be making the best impression. And we all know you're not supposed to pick up the phone while you're driving. So when you're in job search, when your phone rings, take a look. If you don't know the number, you don't have to answer. You wait till you get home, you listen to your voicemail, and then you call the employer back. Don't be worried if they leave a voicemail and you can't get back in touch with them. If they can't leave you a voicemail, then you don't want to work for them, if that makes sense. A professional will leave you a voicemail and say, hey, Sharon, we want to talk to you. You sent us in your resume. Could you give me a call back? That's what it'll sound like. And then you call the person back when you are ready to. Now, typically, that should be within a couple of hours of that person leaving you the message. I know it's kind of crazy, but that's what's happening. And nowadays, a lot of people are doing video interviews because you don't necessarily need to go into a place to get the job. With everybody working remotely, much more has been done with video interviewing. And so we will talk about that in a different seminar. That's the best way to handle that. I want you to remember about all the volunteer work that you're doing or all the extracurricular work that you're doing in school. Even if it's unpaid, it's still considered work. You can put it on your resume and nobody's going to ask what you got paid. You did the work, you showed up every day, you accomplished tasks, you took care of other people. That's really critical. If you are doing caregiving for family members, that's considered work. If you're volunteering at the local hospital or at the local food bank, that's considered work. Just because you're not getting paid doesn't mean it doesn't have value. It has exceptional value. And those are the things you want to put on your resume. And that's what puts you head and shoulders above the next candidate who's going for the same job. We talked a little bit about transferable skills. With the work that you're doing in school, I want you to think about how that relates to something professionally. Now, if you have any questions while I'm talking, because I know I'm talking really quickly, if you've got questions, feel free to ask. Or in our last session, a lot of people unmuted themselves so we could have a conversation. So I want to make sure that if you've got a question that we answer it right away. When people are interviewing nowadays, it used to be, they used to say, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And nobody ever really knew how to answer that. As a matter of fact, whenever they answered the weakness question, the answer was always an attempt to put a positive spin on it. That didn't work. So nowadays, those questions are going to be in the form of think of it as a story problem. Tell me about a time that you delighted a customer. Tell me about a time that you dealt with a customer complaint. Tell me about a time that you had to come up with a solution when you didn't have all the information. Those are the kinds of questions you're going to get nowadays when you go through an interview. And I want you to be able to hear what they're saying in the middle of all their words. What are your strengths? What are you really good at doing? And to prepare to answer that question, write things down on a piece of paper. Write down the traits that you're proud of. Write down the things that you've done that you want to brag about when somebody asks you. So that's a little bit about how behavioral-based interviewing sounds. One of the ways to answer those questions is to take a look at what the situation is, what's the action that you took, and then what was the result. We call that SAR or STAR. What's the situation? Well, I delighted this customer because it was the day after, the day after Thanksgiving, and I was working retail and my computer went down and I wasn't able to take care of this customer. So what I did is I grabbed a piece of paper, I wrote down their name, I got their phone number, and when the computer came back up, I was able to call them on the phone and complete the sale. Situation was working retail, computer went down. What's the action I took? I thought on my feet, I got a piece of paper and I collected the customer's information. And what did I do? I got in touch with the customer and was still able to complete the sales transaction. That's an example of how to answer an interview question, because the person on the other end is either taking notes or listening to make sure that you're answering the question for the answer they want. And I know that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but when employers are looking to hire, they're looking for people who have different traits. The work that you do working in a restaurant by talking to people and moving things around is really different than if you were working in a warehouse and just dealing with boxes or products. So different jobs have different interviews and require different responses. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And how you happen to be the hero of your own story. I want to talk a little bit about social media. We talked a little bit about that in the other session. LinkedIn is the professional way of being able to communicate with people. It's social media. People often say it's sort of like Facebook for the professions, but it's not. LinkedIn is a great place for you to start building your resume and to start building your professional portfolio. After the end of this seminar, sometime over the weekend, go on to linkedin.com and start taking a look and start thinking about maybe creating an account and putting your profile on there. All of the work we're talking about, the volunteer work that you did or the extracurricular work, that all goes in your LinkedIn profile. All the work that you've done for your church group or all the work that you've done at the food bank, that goes into your LinkedIn profile. All of that information works to start building your resume. And as you continue to grow as a professional, you can start adding more and more information. By looking at LinkedIn, you can see how other people have started to describe their backgrounds and the experience that they have. It's also a great place to do research to see what kind of jobs are available for someone with your interests. So LinkedIn is a great resource to have. Here are some resources for you to look at. But the most important thing that I want to make sure you know before we leave is how to talk about money. Okay, so this is the important part of the whole thing. Sharon, we really like you. We want to hire you. Oh, that's fantastic. I can't wait to start working with you. Well, Sharon, how much money are you looking to make? What's the salary range? The salary range is between $19 and $25 an hour. That sounds great. That's within my range, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get them to actually give you the offer. So let's say right there on the spot, they say, Sharon, that sounds great. We want to offer you $20 an hour. Wow, that's really exciting. I was hoping we could move a little bit closer to maybe 23. It's okay to ask for more money. It's how you ask for more money that will help you move ahead. So I want you to do research on the company. I want you to do research on what the salary ranges are. And I want you to be prepared to take a little bit of a risk, because it'll make you have butterflies to say to somebody, well, I was hoping we could get a little bit closer to 23. You know that 25 is at the top end of the scale, and you can certainly ask for it. And you know that they're going to negotiate down and you're going to come to some place in the middle. So I want you to feel comfortable that when somebody asks you, hey, how much money do you want to make? That you can turn around and you can say, what salary range are you offering? I think we have about 5 minutes left. If you're interested, my name is Sharon Afforde. I'm a senior nurse recruiter with Neighborcare Health. We are a community health provider. If you're looking to start with your entry-level career in healthcare, look me up on LinkedIn and we'll talk about some job opportunities. Click on the QR code to see about the opportunities that we currently are hiring for right now. Thank you very much.
Sharon, there's a question in the chat. Are there many phlebotomy careers on Indeed? And if you could go back a slide too and show those links again. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Yes, phlebotomy is a highly sought out field. Phlebotomist, that's a wonderful job to get. If you carry on with your career into becoming a medical assistant, phlebotomy is also a part of that. You can go to places like Northwest Kidney, Puget Sound Blood Works, DaVita, a number of places will actually hire you and train you to become a phlebotomist. So places like Northwest Kidney, they're a nonprofit organization and they work with kidney dialysis. And so they actually have very specialized phlebotomists there and they will train you. So that was an excellent question. Lots of opportunity for phlebotomists. And we don't call them vampires anymore. What other questions do we have?
Another question is, would being a phlebotomist be helpful in achieving a career in being a veterinarian?
I would think it would be very helpful, because when you're learning to draw blood from a humans, it's probably going to be differently technically with animals, but getting used to sticking somebody with a needle, that's probably really good experience to have either on animals or on humans. So yes, I would encourage that level of coursework.
Also, I would encourage a person who wants to be a veterinarian, if they can, to get either a job or volunteer in a veterinarian clinic.
Well, and some of the places you can work are some of the pet stores that actually have veterinary offices in it. I know Banfield is a clinic that's often in a lot of pet stores. So what's the one phrase I want everybody to leave here knowing? What's the most important thing about job search that you want to remember? What is the salary range? That's the $1 million answer to every question. What is the range? Thank you very much for coming today. I look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn and helping you with your jobs in the future. Thank you.
Any other last minute questions for Sharon? All right. Your learners learned, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you. You've stopped recording, haven't you?
Nope. When should they ask that question? In the middle of the interview?
When they stopped recording?
No. When should they ask what is the salary range?
After somebody tells them they want to be hired. So typically the conversation will go, you know, Jennifer, I've really enjoyed talking with you today. We want to offer you a job. We'd like to offer you, Jennifer. No, Jennifer, how much money are you looking to make?
What is the salary range for this position?
Jennifer, for you, the salary is between $19.50 and $22.75.
What does it take to get the $22.75?
Well, you know what? You have to ask for it. And I'm glad that you asked for it, Jennifer, because we really want to hire you, but we're going to start you off at $21. What do you think about that?
I was hoping we could get closer to the $22.75.
Excellent. That's what I want to hear. It is completely okay. It's okay to ask for more money. And like we talked about in the other session, I want you to know also, there are questions that employers are not allowed to ask you. And if you're ever in a professional situation and somebody's asking you something that you don't feel comfortable about, what I want you to say is, thank you. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Thank you for your time this morning. I don't think this is going to work out. I'm going to leave now. It is perfectly okay for you to say to an employer, I don't think this is going to work out. You don't have to say you're uncomfortable. I think that will be pretty evident on the way you're looking. But if an employer is asking you about what church you go to, if they're asking you about what religion you are, if they're asking you about when you were born or where you were born, they're not allowed to ask those questions. That doesn't matter. So if somebody is asking you questions like that, I want you to feel comfortable with saying, you know, thank you for your time. I don't think this is going to work out. And then you pick yourself up and you leave. You have the right to do that.
Sharon?
Yes,
A
ma'am.
question in the chat. Can some CNAs work in hospitals?
Yes, very much so. CNAs are often needed in hospitals, and they do a lot of tasks where they support the nurses. And that's a great place to get experience. And then if you're continuing on with your healthcare career, the hospital will often pay for continuing education. Thank you very much for attending. Jennifer, thank you for being my moderator.
Thank you, everybody. I think you can go back into the main room now, and there will just be a closing session.